So on Friday night, I did mention that we'll try to get some sleep, and then after we've had our sleep, if we could, we would dissect uh, the latest low chapter in the history of the Black Stars. I don't want to say Ghana football because it encompasses more than that, but you also have to understand that the Black Stars is where we derive a lot of the matrices for how well Ghana football is doing from. So it's been a mighty low. We're having a lot of conversations with a number of people about the general implications of this and a few other things. And I think that it's fair to say that a lot of us saw this coming. We saw this coming. We've seen this in the gradual progression of decline. It's an irony to say progression of decline. So the gradual decline in the fortunes of the national team. And sometimes we go in and on about how statistics hide a lot of things and doesn't reveal everything. I think in the case of the Black Stars, the statistics reveals the most important detail. I think it's beginning to almost sound like a broken record now, but over a period, we were Nations Cup semi-finalist regulars between 2008 up to 2017. We didn't miss a single semi-final. As a journalist, I prepped for tournaments during that period, knowing that I was staying for the entire 4 weeks. And then we went to 2019 on Kwesi Appiah when we didn't make it out of the second round stage. Then we went to 2020 when we didn't make it out of the group stage. Then we went to 2023 when we didn't make it out of the group stage. In that period, our losses were to teams like Comoros, to Mozambique and the rest. So not just were we declining, we were heavily sinking into the grade C, D levels of African football in that period. So the decline has been quite extensive. And in the overall scheme of things, as far as the Nations Cup is concerned as well, what happened in Rwanda, which was a culmination of what happened in Kumasi against Angola, what happened in Accra against Sudan, what happened in Benghazi against Sudan, what happened in Morocco against Niger when we couldn't buy a win in those Nations Cup games, means that we are not qualifying for the Nations Cup for the first time in 20 years. When we botched it so badly away to Rwanda at the Amahoro Stadium, Jimmy Gatete's goal, bumping us out of the Nations Cup, leading to tears, but leading to a revolution in player selection, in attachment, in importance to the national team, And I think that you have to be quite hopeful that this would happen. Now, in 2004, it led to there was the structure of football was changing. That was when we moved from the old system where the Football Association president, and a year later, I think, when we moved from the system where the Football Association president was nominated by government to one properly under FIFA structures and paved the way 2 or so years down the line for Kwesi Nyantakyi to become the most dominant force in Ghana football, in a political sense, and then take us on that whirlwind Nations Cup run until our problem started in 2018, when his ways were found to be unsuitable and eventually led to FIFA clamping down on us, and we had normalization committee and all those things. So a lot of this inevitably has to be on Mr. Keto Kreku, my mate from journalism school, who has supervised, you have to say, the worst period in Ghana football as far as the Black Stars is concerned in the modern era. And I think this is not just an opinion, this is something based and based in the numbers and rooted in the record of the Black Stars over the period. We've not been to a semi-final under Kate. We used to take that for fun. In fact, in 1992, when we returned to the Nations Cup after having missed it from 1986 to 1992, we reached the final and lost to Ivory Coast. In 1994, we were quarter-finalists when we were beaten by Ivory Coast. They were just such big nemesis for us. In 1996, we were semi-finalists. Then in 1998, we didn't get out of the group stage. Then in 2000, we were quarter-finalists. Then in 2002, we were quarter-finalists. So we were either there or not from 1992. We were the only black blot in 2004. And then from 2004, we rectified it. Look, it's, I think that to understand the genesis of it, I said on Friday that this is the culmination, I personally think, of one bad decision after the other. I think maybe the most catastrophic of them on hindsight and on reflection after everything that happened with the World Cup was the return of Otto Addo and the overestimation of what qualifying for the World Cup with 2 games against Nigeria. I mean, somebody was asking me today why somebody who did so well in qualifying for the World Cup has become so bad, and the suggestions that the players are not playing well under him. Well, it's very simple. The World Cup was against a natural enemy in quotes. The motivation to play at the World Cup is huge. Otto had good tactics, 2 draws against Nigeria, so you have to give him credit for that. But it's not a good basis to judge long-term potential. And I think the easiest way to judge long-term capacity is how consistent you are with your results. And if we pop up Otto Addo's results in charge of the national team, I think the evidence suggests that long-term, he doesn't look like the guy who can fix our problems. So in the period when he's been back and given a fairly good salary, a backroom staff that he's entitled to work with, he himself says the free hand to pick his decisions and pick everybody he wants to work with and all that. I think the evidence of the results and the magnitude of the failure suggests that it may be time to move on from that. Now, I say this fully aware of a number of things, and I'll address some of those. But in 9 matches, and you see the record of Otto Addo on the screen by my side. In 9 matches under Otto Addo, there was the 2-1 loss to Nigeria. That was the first time since the 2002 Nations Cup quarterfinal. I lost to the same Nigerians, Gabalawa's goal. This one, it was a friendly Morocco. There was a 2-2 draw against Uganda. Then Ghana had a really, really good start to the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, when Otto's team won in Mali. Jordan Ayew scoring the goal late to end Ghana a 2-1 win. Then there was a win over Central African Republic in Kumasi. But maybe that game against Central African Republic provided indicators for us of the defensive frailties we didn't take note of. They scored twice. Our defending was pretty bad, but we got away with it that day. Then when the Nations Cup qualifiers started, I think that a lot of us said, oh, no disrespect to Angola, to Sudan, to Niger, we're going to qualify. I think that it was, and this is also part of the failing of us as journalists, myself included, was that we had assumed that it was going to be a given to reach the tournament. We had forgotten that our biggest problems in Nations Cup, in tournament, came from Comoros. We didn't qualify out of the group in 2022 because we were beaten by Comoros. That's how bad we were. In 2023, we were undone by Mozambique, when we had everything at our disposal to qualify. So we had shown an inability to be able to deal with a lot of those countries. And that's come back to bite us. But I never thought, based on what Otto had done against Central African Republic, Mali, that he was going to botch it this badly. So the results against Angola and Kumasi, he says we played well. I watched that game. I don't think we were great. It's a problem that our finishing was unbelievably bad in the way it was against Sudan in Accra. As for the return leg, it was a complete write-off. It's the West Black Stars performance I've seen in a long, long time. Against Niger, we conceded bad goals. And I think that when you are, of course, as a journalist, I'm in no position to judge the technical capacity of a coach, but I'm in a position to see deficiencies. I don't need a technical eye to. Deficiencies sometimes are also marked out by the numbers, and you need to look at the number of times Black Stars have conceded goals in the second half. So yesterday, whilst everybody was celebrating, I said to a friend of mine, I said, look, the real challenge will come in the second half because we have a capacity for making colossal mistakes. Then we had free header for the Angolan who went on to score the goal. It's shown up, against Sudan. We were so bad. They completely played us off the park. They just dropped the ball behind our defenders one-on-one against the players, and then they were gone. Against Niger, we conceded late. Against Angola, we conceded with virtually the last kick of the game. Against Sudan, we had chance upon chance upon chance, like 4 one-on-ones, and we couldn't take any of them. So I think that you can make a realistic argument that as far as the consistency of results is concerned, what has happened with Otto Addo in the last 4 Nations Cup qualifiers is a bigger 5 Nations Cup qualifiers. It's a bigger indicator of whether he's worth sticking to or not. And I think the evidence from that is no. Then there are the issues of the things that are outside the football field that I think potentially is an even more bigger problem. So, look, the handling of the captaincy suggests a man who can deal with the complexities of issues within the national team. I don't think that it was for nothing that so many players took the easy option of pulling out from the national team. I don't see a group of players who go out on the pitch and show by their body language that this is a coach they trust, this is a coach they want to work under and all that. When I watch the Black Stars play and I've watched this team long enough, I don't get a sense that these players are happy going out and doing it. Because a lot of people speak about the Football Association being bad and all that, but we pick coaches for a reason. And when we picked Otto Addo, we gave him a set of criteria for how well he would do. I'm trying to pull that out. We asked him to do a lot of things and he's not been able to do them. We said we wanted him to qualify us for major tournaments. We wanted to be at the Nations Cup. We also said that we wanted a football philosophy that aligns and complements our DNA. Not sure what our DNA is. We said he had to hold the highest license in world football with over 15 years experience in football. The GFA could say they factored in all the scouting period. They wanted a straight disciplinarian, tactician, and leadership skills. I think that, maybe disciplinarian, maybe tactician, but leadership skills, the handling of the captaincy issue has shown that he didn't have any. The handling of the party issue, the handling of the captaincy issue, the uncertainty about it, effectively telling them, suggesting with the decision that Kudus's leadership didn't match up against Sudan and the rest were all things that, for me, speaks of a man we may have to move on. Now, there's something that I've dealt with a lot, and I was discussing with my friend Hakim on Twitter, X, that is, about what is responsible. And I know a lot of you speak in eloquent detail about how you think that this problem supersedes the coach. When I said that, when I said that the issues about the Black Stars is a problem, Hakim said this isn't on Otto Addo. The only constant in the last 5 years of footballing embarrassment in the GFA. And then he goes on to say the systematic issues have gotten the very best of every single coach in the last 5 years. We can't absolve Otto, but I'll reserve my harshest critic for the FA, to be honest. And I think he makes a good point. So it's fair to look at the Black Stars and Laketo Kweku, and it doesn't make for good reading. If you are him, you are going to get a bit. The questions are there. The questions are huge. So the Black Stars at Afcon and Laketo Kweku in 2001 group stage exit, West finished since 2008. Then we were at group stage exit in 2023, and then we didn't qualify for the first time in 20 years. So the picture is obvious. In that period, we've taken in what? When Kurt came in, he made a decision that he didn't want Kwesi Appiah, so that was fair. Then he hired Milovan CK Akono, who didn't last because the football was not great. Then he hired Milovan Raivat. Then he hired Otto Addo, who salvaged our World Cup hopes in that playoff against Nigeria. Then he hired Chris Hughton. But remember that Otto Addo himself, and I'll come to the issue about commitment, because I've always said that players take example from leadership. Then we hired Chris Hughton. Then we hired Otto Addo again. So we've gone back and forth on a lot of things. We've really gone back and forth. Kurt has been through, the Kurt administration have been through. I think a lot of us raised questions about why Otto Addo again. There seemed to be this strong affection for Otto Addo from Kurt Kweku. But I think that in his quiet moment, Kes has to even admit to himself that this experiment is not working. And that's what really it is. Otto may be a brilliant scout, he may be a brilliant identifier of talent, he may be a brilliant man in terms of bringing up players. But the truth also is that our national team is his first major crack at being the main man. And with every decision, it's obvious that this is a bit above his pay grade. His pay may be good, but it's obvious that this is above his pay grade and everything. Now, obviously, we can't sack it, and it's for the Football Association people to do the right thing. And when the time comes to vote, to let it become obvious that our football has struggled, especially our national team has struggled under Mr. Okreku. I think this may not put paid to talk of a third term. I don't think there should be a third term, but this makes the argument even more complicated than it would have been. And I think that it's becoming quite clear that something needs to change. It doesn't need to change just with the coach. It needs to change with the management of football. But because you can't, unless you, apart from consistently reminding Kets that he needs to go, what really can you do? You can only wait for elections for that to happen. And that's where the integrity, and that's where the willingness of football, the football people, as we call them, to tackle things will come in. But our record has been, absolutely bad. It's been horrible. We can get things done. We can buy wins. We can do anything. On Monday, I think the atmosphere at the Accra Sports Stadium will be incredibly foul. I don't think Otto Addo should remain our coach. I think there should be major changes in the way the Black Stars is managed. I don't think that the search for a coach should be left to the same group of people. I'm personally disappointed that the Ministry of Youth and Sports didn't take a more supervisory role in managing things with the national team and literally left the Ghana Football Association to do as much as it wanted in a lot of the things. So something needs to give, and something needs to give badly. And that is not just with Otto Addo, it's with the management of Ghana football. Everybody says it's bad. We've seen a lot of these problems reflected at under 17 level, at under 20 level, and all that. We've seen the decline in local football, and something is going wrong, and something needs to be done to it as quickly as possible.